Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're doing great. Without any further delay, let me just share the screen. So, would you please go to your Google Colab? Please go to Google Colab. And then if you see here intentionally, because it's an important session, I have provided a separate folder named week number 6. Can you please go there? You see that there is one file, the name is week number 6, how to work with file IO. Download that file. And whenever you are done with downloading, please type 1. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I'm going to, for those friends who cannot find it, I'm going to drag and drop the file here too. So you can download that and just, if you bring it to upload portion, you're gonna see something similar to my screen. Okay. If you can see such a file, please type 1. Awesome. Thank you. And again, for the rest of the files that we need to work with, as it is super important, I'm gonna keep that extra folder. Again, please go to your course content. The last folder, week number 6, has some subsidiaries, subfolders. Now, the second part consists of these files, hi, test 1, 2, and 4. Please download all of them. And if for any reason you have any issue, I'm gonna copy the files in the Zoom as well. So you can either use that part or this one. And for those who are on Telegram, I shared the files last night, well, early this morning. Okay, if you could download all these files, I would be thankful if you just press 2 after you're done. Thank you very much. Okay, if you please go here on the left side, you see that there is one file icon. You see that? Please click on this. It's going to open something like this. A panel would show up. And now, from the place that you have downloaded all those files, you can just drag and drop all of them at once. You can just bring them into here. And it's going to show you all the files below the sample data folder, right? Again, if you click on this, it's going to open the panel for you. And I just dragged and dropped all these files from there into here, right? So let me just show you what we have in HyText. So you see just one sentence. This is just the beginning. I've split that into 5 different lines. We started with hi, all, and let's see what we can do with this. Okay. The very first thing is we say, let's have file A. This is not a keyword. It could be anything like ABC. We say that open a file in read mode, means that I want just to read it. Does that make sense? So it opens the file. Well, we want to do that. We open the file in read mode as my file. So this is a kind of alias for it. And we say for every single line that we have in my file, just print that line, right? And look what's going to happen. Let me just run this one. Because it is accessible in here, you simply can just see it says, hi, all. This is just the beginning. And the reason that you see another unwanted space here, because in the print, not only we have \n, I'm sorry, we have \n in the file that we have already opened. Look, this file has \n automatically at the end of page. And whenever you say that, okay, print, it has \n as well. So if you just say and equal to nothing, for example, and let's just run this one, you see that there is no unwanted extra lines between them. So I hope that we could have enough number of participants, and whenever you feel comfortable finishing all these commands till this moment, and modify the file that I've already sent to you. If everything is successfully done, please type 3. Matthew, thank you. Nilam, Kevin, Justin, thank you very much. Okay, there is one thing, and you're going to see that in the quiz. I mentioned whenever we use with, and we open the file using with command, automatically it takes care of closing the file whenever you are done with that. Does that make sense? Huh? You might ask, what is the big deal about closing the file? Guys, we can open the file for different purposes, like opening it for writing something, appending any information. Just on the reading, you may think. So all these intentions has their own specifications. Like when you open a file in read mode, 100 more people can open it in read mode as well. But when you open it in write mode, it is possible that you want to change hi all to hi everyone, and somebody else want to say hello everyone, right? So both of you want to change which one should be accepted by the system. You know what I'm saying? And imagine that you are dealing with that. We have different locking system. I don't want to get to that part for now, but imagine that in the pessimistic way of locking, it's not going to give permission to anyone else except the first person who has opened it in write mode. Is it clear? Whenever you open something in write mode, guys, please pay attention to this. And if it is clear, I'm going to ask you a question. Imagine that 100 people are reading a file. That's not a big deal. Imagine that one person opens it for writing and wants to change it from hi to hello. And another person wants to open the same file instead of hi, say greetings. So we have two different people that they want to change their file. Which one do you think that could be eligible for changing it? Can you please tell? The first person or the last person? Okay. Justin says the most recent change should be applied. Last person. Okay. There's no absolute true or false for this. It really depends on the policy that you have. But the thing is, whenever you are done, I just wanted to tell you, we have pessimistic locking, which is going to revoke all the permissions to anyone but the first person who has opened it. Means that you're not able to open the file if I have opened it before you. You know what I'm saying? And the problem is if I open it in that case and I forget to close it, you're going to be behind the door until the garbage collection and some automatic mechanisms run once in a while in the system. And it says that no one is working with that file, so there's no need for having a lock. And let's just accept, for instance, Abdul Ghafar's request. You know what I'm saying? So in that case, technically, it takes lots of resource and time to bring back the file, which Abdul Ghaffar has already done. So you are responsible if you open a file, close it yourself. The good thing about with open is after finishing the block, it automatically closes the file. Okay? So whatever I said, please paraphrase it and write it. With open, it automatically, with open clause, it automatically closes the file after finishing the block. And there's a reason that I said, please paraphrase it, because if you get the concept, you're going to answer one of the tests, one of the quizzes, one of the MCQs in the quizzes. Abdul Ghaffar, can you write it completely, please? Okay, I repeat it once again. Whenever you open a file without with prefix, you need to close it manually yourself. In that case, it takes a good amount of time to get closed if you don't manually close it by the system. The good thing about with the statement is if you open it for any reason, like reading, writing, whatever, the good thing is it is going to close it automatically at the end of the block. Okay, if it is clear, please type 3. Okay, thank you very much. One of the thing is, and this is not going to apply for today's class, but if you see here, I just want not to ruin the current things that we are working with. And I want to show you one simple, actually, sample. Okay. This is another file exactly the same, but I just want to tell you one fact. All of us have used any sort of cloud storage mechanisms like iCloud, OneDrive, and Google Drive, Dropbox, you name it. If you want to connect your computer, connect your Google Colab technically to Google Drive, you need to go through these steps. Look at here. If I just say, I want to see the content in the Mount Drive, it's going to say, hey, I don't have anything yet. And the reason for that is you need to first import the drive from the Google Drive, Google Colab library. So please, let's run that one. And then let's say, I want to mount content / drive. And after that, look what's going to happen. It's going to ask you which account you want to use. So imagine that I use this Google account that I have. I'm going to bring it to the other screen for a sec. And then it says that continue. And finally, it gives you something like discontinue. And if I just say, okay, it takes a few seconds. And then it is going to connect you to your Google Drive using Colab. If you have a proper authentication, two-level authentication mechanism, you'll receive email or any other preset two-level authentication, right? And then if you now click on this one, it's going to show you all the folders that you have in Google Drive, okay? Abdulghaffar said it opened the file and added the text to the beginning of the file, right? Is it correct? To the end, okay. I'm gonna explain that again. And says, yes, can you click again to access? Probably, yeah. Abdulghaffar, if you're talking about the previous one, if you open it, it's gonna open the file in read, write, or append mode. And it's gonna close the file and take all the logs that you imposed by opening it automatically. You don't need to close it. Right? Okay. The thing is, everybody, now if you click on the drive, you see that here it says my drive, and for instance, my Python class, and these are the files that I have just dragged and dropped before. But right now, we just want to keep working with the files that I have already shared with you. So we are not going to work with Google Drive. But guys, the warning that at the beginning, when you drag and drop any file here, we receive is, it says, if you leave the Google Colab environment, you're not going to have these files anymore. Well, for this toy example, we don't care because we have all those files. We have all those files somewhere in the system, like here. But what if, let me just fabricate saying test kind of thing. And I drag and drop here, right? What if I just close the file, close the Colab and come back, none of these guys would be here. Anytime that you want to bring, the first time it gives you a warning about that. But the things are gonna stay forever in Google Colab, in OneDrive that you have, sorry, Google Drive that you have here. So let me just delete this one. Everybody, please double click on test one and see what is inside that. You have two ways for doing this. One is double click on test one. So it's gonna open a panel on the right side. And then it says everything that you have there. Or you can simply open the file and you're gonna see the same context, right? This is just for letting you know you're gonna get there in no time. So you see, I just combined these two. You need to have this on top of your project, any project that you want to link it to your Google Drive. Okay. Previously, it was not that easy using your phone and just confirm it, or we had lots of steps and I just kept them for two reasons. If you watch any video that I have shared already, the second video on top, you can see what it was before. And now we can appreciate the simple step that we have at the moment. And apart from it, if you see it anywhere, you can just know what is happening there. Now let's start from very simple example. Let's open the file test1 in read mode. Now let's put this open test1.txt read mode in F. And then let's say f.read. What actually happens, it reads the whole file. It reads the whole file. And then you can simply print everything. It was possible to place the output of f.read in a dummy variable and then read it. Everybody, would you please confirm you could do this and you could get the similar result? If yes, please type 1. Okay. Homer, do you see these files on the left side? And if you haven't added those files, I'm gonna just quickly, for those who joined us later, excuse me. My apologies, I do not feel very well today. I hope that I do not give you any non-positive energy, but thank you very much for putting up with me. So let's go to this one. If you double click on this file, you're gonna see it shows the result on the right panel. And then let me just, guys, why I say f.close, anyone can elaborate on that, please. I wait for a few seconds. Can you please elaborate why after opening we say f.close? So Justin said to allow other users to use the file without permission issues. Bravo. Excellent. Let me just see what Abdulgafar was kind to share. Excellent. Thank you, Abdulgafar. Okay, guys, I have lots of questions here. I would be grateful if you help me to understand what is happening. I closed the file for sure here, and imagine that for any reason I wanted to open it again. So I would say f.open test01.txt and then open it in a read mode. Actually, we opened that file. This opening process in read mode, we place it into F. F is an object that object is going to open the file in read mode. Look at it that way, right? And the thing is, now that object, which has that file in the open mode, tell me one thing, everyone. What is actually, Samuel, that's my question. I didn't have time to understand what is happening in here. I just have that. And it says read 5. Guys, what is your guess? What is this 5 is going to do? And if you have any hesitation for that, you can just replace 5 with something like 15 and see the output. What's going to happen? Okay, so why it starts saying an amazing group instead of starting from the beginning? Anybody can tell? Lovely, Murat. Yes, yes, because we have already. Yeah, let me just close the file again and reopen it. That's what we can understand. Now, if I say show me 15, it's gonna start from the beginning. So it's gonna be what an amazing, huh? And what if I say now, for instance, 7 right after that? Look what's gonna happen. Group exclamation mark would be shown because the pointer was already left here after amazing. Does that make sense? Huh? Lovely. Okay, what an amazing group. And now if you just say close it and you just want to open it again, it's going to be something. Guys, do we have any file named new test here? I don't see any, right? Oh, lovely. And I want to open a file. Let's call it new test and then open it in a write mode. It means that we don't have that file and we want to create it. Look at this one. And then I say, I don't see any output. And if you just right click here and say refresh, we have that. And you double click, it shows there is nothing in it. Well, we just created a file without having anything inside that, right? After that, if you say, let me just close this one, then we can reopen. If I say now, write something in it. And then if I double click and refresh, let me just close it, sorry. Refresh, it is going to show test. Actually, because I did it 2 times, as you see. We had that issue. But you can just, let me just delete it once again. Simple. And I can just say, right, and then close. And if it doesn't show, just simply say refresh. and then double click and it's gonna show you test over there. Does that make sense? As a test, use your beautiful name instead of test and write that file. The new test should happen in a default folder that you have, whatever the default folder is. For those who followed my steps, the default folder is something that you can see on the left side here. So the new test should show up there. If you don't see it, try once saying refresh, or you can simply right click here and say refresh. Guys, those who can see, I said instead of test here, for instance, say Murad, right? And let me just delete that file. Let's do it all over again together. So for instance, I say open a file, new test, and let's consider Murad as the name and close. And I don't see it, I refresh it. Now new test is there and your name is showing up. Does that make sense? Exactly. That's no worries. That's a beautiful point that Abu Ghaffar was kind to share. Imagine that here we have 5 letters here and it shows 5 in here. Does that make sense? So whatever the number of elements that you want to write in the file, it's going to show that. But do not forget to close the file, because imagine that somebody else wants to work with the same file. What is happening? Did I close it before? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to just open it and okay, done. Because I closed it and I wanted to write again on it. Okay, so you remember what we had on test 1, huh? This time, as one of our friends suggested correctly before, you're going to say with open file A, and that file A is nothing but test1. And we didn't say R test1.txt, so we need to mention what is the purpose of opening that file. Do you want to read it? Do you want to write on the file, or you want to append something at the end of the file, or what? Whenever you are done with that, it says that line for every single line in the file, just simply write print that line, huh? And then after we are done with this block, we're going to have one print, one empty line at the end. Guys, what's going to happen if I don't use this one? Any idea? Alcoreda, it doesn't matter. Maybe you just opened it, you have forgotten to do the write, right? Let me just show you one thing. I'm going to say new test 1 that I don't have it here. I just run that line and I do not write anything inside that file and I say close. If I miss that line and I say refresh, you see I don't have anything inside it. Does that make sense? But imagine that I open that test file and I use your name. Okay. And then I close it, right? If I open it again, it's gonna show you your name. Did you get what I'm saying? Not a problem. Thanks for asking. Okay, so as our friend said, if I take the end equal to double quote, it is going to show you the \n, which we have there, right? It really depends. Your question is very general, Jan. If you want to, if somebody, including yourself, has already opened it in a read mode, then the upper hand is in the hand of write. You can open it in the write mode, but nobody else can open it in the write mode, and you're gonna win the battle for saving any changes, right? But if you're done with that and you want to change it again, then you're gonna reopen it as write mode. Does that make sense? Not a problem. Okay, let's just this time, if you see, instead of saying test1, for example, or test2 here, and then comma read mode, I say file B, and that is not a reserved name. It could be Reza, ABC, whatever. I say directly, please open it in read mode, because I have already mentioned R as a prefix. So now if I say open it, and then for every line that we have, and if you have any doubt about the content of that file, you can double click here, or you can double click on the file that I have already shared with you, right? And it is going to show you what we have as the content of the file. Okay. Let's just say place test2 in file C. But this time we didn't mention R as the prefix. So you need to mention open the file in read mode. Okay. Okay, Murad, your question is not clear and it is confusing. Please just follow this one. It's totally a new thing. Guys, everybody, please follow this one. Forget about hi, forget about test one. You just need now focus on test number 2. If you double click on that, you see that we have something like this. Guys, everybody, do you have test 2? And if you click on it, do you have this content? If yes, please type 1. Okay, great. Look at this one, please. Guys, if you say instead of read, if you say read lines, it's going to read the first line. Guys, do we have any new line after Reza Dibaj? Do we have any new line after that? Yes or no? In other words, are we going to shift to a new line after that? Obvious, yes. So technically, look at this one, please. Technically, after that, we have a hidden \n. Does that make sense? We have a hidden \n means that please go to the next line. Here I say hello from inside the Google Drive, for example. Actually, we are not in the Google Drive now. But if I say \n, it's going to get to the next line, right? And then for amazing, and then 737. Okay, that was the time that I use read lines. But my question for you, I open the same file, and this time it just shows me the first line. Can you please elaborate on that? Why this time it just shows the first line? Lovely, excellent, very good observation. Because this time we used what? We use readline and not read lines. And now the pointer is here for the first line. It says Reza Dibaj. And the second one, it says that hello from inside the Google Drive. So technically we finished these two lines. And you see that's the output of that. But one question here, and that is, what if I just use read? Guys, what would be the output? I know the output, but can you explain what is the output of a method like read? Excellent, Harry. It reads the entire file, the content that we have in the entire file. Remember, the file C that we try to read is this file, right? Let me just close everything. So this is this file that has all those lines. Yes, Murat, actually, as you said, it prints the whole text, right? So that is the result of that one. But you have all the right to say, Reza, why should we bother? Then we have something nice, neat, like read. And it gets the whole, everything that we have. Why did you tease us by learning read lines? So just read, just use read. What is your answer? What is the reason that we have all those other methods like read lines, and so on? Abdul Ghaffar said, read mode, and then print the content of the file to the console. Bravo. Excellent. But what is the use of other things that we discussed earlier? Do you have any opinion? So instead of using readline or read lines, we could simply say read, get the whole content. Just think about it, and I would be grateful to receive your thoughts and opinions. So Hamid said we can use them to read a specific line. Actually, 100% correct. That's one of the answers. Bravo. Anna said, what if we have million lines of data and only need a specific one? Bravo. It's different angle of what Hamid said in a nice way. Jam said, can be useful if we only need to read some parts of the entire file. Bravo. What if you just want to get the first 10 rows of the, guys, if we want to read the first 10 rows, what should we do? We just need to say for loop, and you should have something like I index and just have 10 read line, right? As simple as that. Murad said, it depends how many lines you want to print. You can use a few line for headline and the whole file with. I can't understand. But what if we have 15 lines and okay. And even what is the difference between, guys, could you see this? Just look at the output that we have for these lines. It is something like a vector. Does that make sense? We have something like a vector here. And you can, whenever you have vector means this one is index 0, this one is index 1, this one is index 2, index 3, and so on. Right? Simon, elaborate more on your question. I'm waiting for your answer. But what if, Jam said, what if we have 15 lines and we want to print lines 6 and 8? How do we do that? Very simple, Jam. You can just simply have a counter and check. Okay. So you started the joke. Let's get mine. Anyone who disrespects the class would be ignored, reported. The next question. That is just stupid of some people. I say that I don't feel good and I participate in the class to have this session. What the heck is that? I have good jokes for Simon. Simon Creeks. Okay. Exactly, that's one of the things. But the other thing that you can do is you can simply use a for loop and have a counter. And when the counter is equal to 5 and 7, as you mentioned, say if count is equal to 5 or if count is equal to 7, then print. Does that make sense, Jen? Bravo. I think that some people needs to get back to kindergarten. And when they finish, they say, Reza, can you provide recommendation for us? For sure. Waiting for you. Everybody, please open the file in W mode. Everyone, open it in W mode. And then use your beautiful name. Say test hello from Reza. Or your name. And now just read the file, and say, for every line in the file, just show the output for me. What's going to happen now? If you see we have just only one line, because when you say W, it's not going to append at the end. It's going to overwrite what we had before. Remember what we had on test 2 was this one. And now what we have in test 2 is this one. Okay? So please try that. Use W and see what is going to happen. And then change your file again. Listen to this one. We didn't say with. Definitely we need to say close by ourselves. So make sure that this one works. And after that, if you see the updated file, please type 5. The last thing before we go for a 5 minutes break is I consider people in the class as my colleagues, and I provided the facility of joining as guests. If anything happens, simply I'm going to just close that. Now, everybody, for any reason, if they cannot log into their George Brown account, they can simply use the guest link. This is for your kind information. So now it is 2:55. Let's have a 5 minute water break. I'm going to pause the video now, and we're going to Okay, if you can hear me clearly, please type 1. Alexis, Kylie, Tyler, Matthew, Lyson, Don, Joa. Okay. Um, as you know, next week is Monday would be the family day. But because we have certain number of topics that we have to finish before the semester is over, and I'm 100% sure, based on several years of experience at George Brown, the last 2, 3 weeks would be hectic for you. You're gonna deal with lots of deadlines, assignments, lots of things to finish. So it's not fair to pile up the stuff for the last few weeks. Instead, I decided to have the makeup session on next Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. The participation would be totally optional. You can watch the recorded session at your convenience. There will be no at class, no recorded participation whatsoever. The only thing is, if your time works and you can just attend, that would be great because you can ask your questions or your concerns. Apart from it, the content that we are gonna cover on next Wednesday would be part of the midterm. So please make sure that at your convenience before the midterm, you would cover everything that we study on Wednesday. Definitely based on that, you will have your labs as well. So it's going to be a combination. Partially, you learn the stuff on lab and you intensify the content on the Wednesday session or the other way around. We make it a kind of joint session, the way that you can benefit the most from the things that are happening next week. That's pretty much what I talked to the department. I got all the needed permissions and they gave me the option just to record and share. But I thought that it would be the best if anybody wants to benefit from kind of live online sessions. So that's why I planned it like that. Again, it's optional to participate. It's mandatory to cover the stuff before the midterm. Is there any concern, any question? My pleasure. The thing is, if you look, you have the link here. The reason that I deleted the previous address is, let me just tell you what happened that I said open it in the new. Look at this one. When I go to this place, I have 2 tabs for 2 of the courses that I teach. One is for deep learning and the other one for Python. So instead of making the link inside the Python group, I made it wrongly in the deep learning group. And then I realized it today. I just rebuilt the Zoom. So please make sure that you updated the Zoom link because the earlier one does not exist. If for any reason you have already placed it into your calendar, please replace it, modify it here. And the same thing applies to the applied to the Telegram group. I have updated that one. If you can hear everything, please type 2. You know, Oleg, I paused to say it in front of the others or not. But the way that I could just say is, this is the link join the session. When somebody gives the value as your colleagues, just know the difference. Otherwise, you sit in the student seat. Everybody, please continue here. Let's say open test3.txt. This time, we are gonna open it in write mode. And say whatever you want to say, use \n in order to have several lines. You can just add more \n's to see how it works. Run it. And then you're gonna see there was no test3 before. And if you refresh, we have test3. And because I added one \n there, now we have 3 lines, right? Look at this one. If you do not say anything and it is right, it's going just to split it using what? Using just one line. So that is why you see some new lines continues the previous line. And whenever you say \n, it breaks the line. If you finished this and you can get the similar result, please type 3. Next line, we are going to open the same file saying read. And it's going to open the file in a read mode. Consider all those \n's that we had, one in here, one in here, and even the space is considered. Let me just get rid of that space. Run the code again. We don't have any space here. The next part is we are going to open file number 4. And that file has 4 lines. And then we say in file.read. And now we have 4 lines, the way that you see it here. And the question that we have, what if I use, instead of W and R, what if I use A? Is it going to, what is A? Is it for add? Right, append, lovely. And then if you say \n and say, here is the last line, let me just run it. And then if I open file number 4, you see that it says that here's the last line. What if you just run the same line again? Just open it again, and then you have 2, and here's the last line. Why? It's not going to overwrite. If you just use W, then you can see that it's going to overwrite. Right? But that was not the intention. We wanted to, let me just close, or let me just delete this file and load the file again. If you made the same thing, I just give you file again. So it's going to be handy for you to replace it. So if I say open the file and then it's going to show you the original one. And if you say append, it is going to append the last line that you see. And here, if you say test4.text.read, what's going to happen? Read line is going to fetch the pointer would be at the end of this line, means the beginning of the next. And if you just say 2 times, it's going to show you the first 2 lines. What if I just say several times? This is something that Jan asked, if I'm not mistaken, a few minutes ago. So what if I want just to have 2 or 3? You can simply have a while loop here, a counter before it, and say that counter is equal to 0 and add 1 into it. And if the counter is equal to, for instance, 2, which is going to be for this one, or 3 for this one, then just print it, right? That kind of strategy if you want to select specific lines. We are going to get more of this sample. Everyone, please say with open test4.txt read. And then just read the file. This time, we just said read, so everything just piled up in one continuous string, and we have a kind of /n hidden in the file. Every line which is terminated is going to have one /n here, one /n at the end of this, and so on and so forth. Whenever you use read, you consider those /n's. It's not going to add any additive /n like this here. Okay. What if we just say one read line? You know that it's going to just fetch the first. What if you say read lines? It's going to consider every single line as one element in a vector. And why we are saying vector? It's a kind of list that we have here, because we have one bracket at the beginning and one bracket at the end. So every element could consider as an element in the list. Let's do something together. Do we have any file like new game here? Yes or no? Do you see any? I haven't passed any file like name game to you, right? Then if you say open new game.txt as write4, and then you say out file.write, it's going to change everything into what? It's going to create one file. Look at here, we don't have any. Right click and say refresh. Now we have new game, name game, sorry. And in name game, we have the names that we selected. Put your name and 2 other names, whatever you like. And then if you say read all of them and say the end would be double quote. There's another way of doing the same thing, and that is reading everything and place it inside a variable. It could be ABC. Right? And you read everything from the file and place it inside a variable. Now, that variable contains all those names that you have placed in the file, right? Does that make sense? If you could finish everything till this moment and everything works fine, please type 5. Thank you, Abdul Ghaffar, Murad, Jan, Matthew, Alexis. Samuel? Algorithm. Okay, now let's just say, let's read the lines. You remember I said you're going to make a list and you can access any list by the index of the list. Look at this one. I can say pick the first name and the last name in the list. So it's going to just print those two for you, right? And look at this part. If I say print the whole list, you see those hidden /n's are there. Let's get back to the original list that we created. We said create the first name, go to the next line, second name, go to the next line, and so on and so forth. Guys, the thing is, if I say download, and I download the file, you're gonna see the /name is not as a /n here, it just breaks the line and goes to the next. What if you fetch that? It's going to do the same thing. If you say, hey, print the content for me, it shows /n for all of those, right? What if you want to get rid of that /n? We are going to get to that in no time. Everybody, please get to this. Say name game.text, read only, and say read the line from the alias file that you have created, like in file. And then just print name1 and name2. And simply after that, after writing those two, say print name01 and name03. You read, look at the difference between these three, what happens here. First, we say read line, we place it into name1, and we print it. Then we say read line, technically it reads this line, but it doesn't place it in anywhere. Even if you can just place it in name2, for example, but you can simply not print it. And then you say, read the next line. So the pointer is already on line number 3. You read it and you place it into name number 3. Okay? If everything is clear, you see why we cannot see the John Smith's name in the output here. If it is clear for you, please type 3. If you have any concern and you don't know what is happening, please ask your question. Exactly. You can simply say either directly print here, right? Or you could simply say name02 equal to that. And then say print number 2. The next thing which is going to happen is members.text W. We are going to create one file with txt extension in a write mode. And we read from the list named members. We read from this, the first element. And then for every single element that we have there, we add it, we write it into the file, and we say / and means go to the next line. And simply, if I run this code, look at the left side, we don't have anything like members. Right after that, if you don't see it right away, you just need to refresh. You're going to see we have members. And if you double click on that, you see that those 2 lines are already there. This is something that I wanted to show you. What if you want to read from this file? Imagine that there is no line equal to line.replace \n with those 2. I comment that line and let's see what would be the output. It says that John and Eric with / at the end, / n at the end. But I say, whenever you get any of those, just replace / n, which originally we added here. Replace them with nothing, right? And that is why if you replace it and print, there is no sign of /, which we added initially. Does that make sense? So this is how you can use this trick to get rid of the / n's that are invisible, but they exist. And that is why you see John is in the first line and Eric is in the second line. If everything is super clear, please type 4. The next one, years. Imagine that I open a file called years.txt and I open it in a write mode. And I want to say for every year in years, guys, this is a kind of proper name of a way of naming. It could be employee, employees, something like that. But if you say X, nobody's going to pick on you why you used X in years. Anyway, for every single year in years, what you need to do is convert that first into string and then add / n at the end and go to the next line, into the next line. Look, we don't have any years.txt here. I'm going to do that and wait for a few seconds. And on the left side, you're going to see we have year. We have years.txt. And if I double click, you see every one of those years are in one separate line. The question is, what if I don't use str here? What's going to happen? Is it similar? Those who think that it's going to give the similar result, please type 1. Those who think that it's going to raise error, please type 2. So Matthew, Murad, they say it works the same way. Harry says, oh, Harry. Okay, let's just try it. Actually, if it was C#, it worked the same way. But Python, surprisingly enough, it is pickier. So it gives error, as you see. We need to make everything like string before, because this is a string and this should be string to be able to be concatenated to the other string. So now it works. Huh? That's why I provided this one for you to test it. Look at this one. If you open the file years and then go to every single line and say replace \n by nothing, and then you say years.append. Look at this one. We have a list which is empty at the beginning. And then we say, go to the file that has all those years. Definitely replace \n with nothing. If you don't have that line, you can guess what's going to happen. Right? Let me just first comment that one. And it's going to show you \n at the end of each element in the list. But if I say replace it with nothing, this is going to be like this. Okay. Before I continue, because all the things are recorded, and I'm very much sure I can rely on the recording, especially the things that are happening in the class, I want to tell you something. I was 100% positive after finishing the class, I'm going to write to Albert as well as Maziar about one of the students in the class. And I was damn serious about doing that. I'm very careful about every single word that I'm using. You can rarely hear anything like D-A-M-N from me. I rarely use HATE in the classes, but I use it right now. I want to say, and I want to warn that specific student. This is the last time. I know that you joined the class with a guest account. This is the last time that I don't do it. Don't ruin your life. Not everybody's like Reza. Yes, they're not going to kick you out of the school, but this is going to be one part of your records in your education. Don't play around with your future as simple as this. At least risk it for the time that it's really worth it. And that is the last time that I say it. Next time I'm going to do it. The next part that I want to tell you is saying movies. Guys, I have been into this business for 29 years. I've been more than your age in this business. The movies have the name here and the year, the name, the year, the name, the year. Is this a string or what? Can anybody tell me what is the texture of every single line? Lovely. It's a string and integer, but they are not separate string and integers. They are records, right? Exactly. They are lists, and the list in Python can be in multiple types, right? Excellent. Now, whenever you have multiple types like this, do you think that the text file is the best to save things like that? Yes or no? The text file is not the greatest because you cannot work, for instance, you cannot say, hey, sort the table for me based on the names or based on the year. The best concept for such a thing would be something like CSV5, comma-separated values. This is the first time that we try it together. So let's import CSV5. That's the library that you need to have in order to proceed. So in the next part, you say movies.csv, write and then say new line, and then say nothing adapt. Look, we open a file and we add the movies that we have created a few seconds ago to that file. Look at this one. When you open a file, you can assign an alias name for it, as we did here. And then we say, okay, open it in a writer mode. Whenever you say writer, it means that, okay, pick up your pen and start writing on the file. What are you going to write? You're going to write movies. Guys, spend 30 seconds, just read what is happening here. Yes, the answer is yes. But if you don't mind, for this moment, let's not get deeper. Okay, but that's perfect. Yeah. Okay, everybody, would you please just run this line and then this one? It's going to look at the left side. Do we have any movies? That's CSV file. No, we don't have. If you say that, please refresh it for me. And then you say download. And here we have movies.csv. Look at the result. And that is what I mentioned to you earlier. The good thing is, apologies, because it's streaming, it takes a few seconds. So you see that here we have the movies and then the year. And it is possible for you simply go to data and say, I just want to sort based on the column A. So cat should be on top, right? And then, or you can just sort it based on the year. In that case, 1954 should be on top. Right? So that kind of thing. Because we want to have the benefit of using such concepts, we save it as either CSV file or we save them as Excel file. We need to import Excel library if you want to do so. Look at this one. If you double click, it's going to show you the first 10. If you have multiple, you can just switch to the next, third, and so on. By saying that, we already finished the CSV file, but all of these CSV files, you can just simply open it for reading as well. Let's just do it. We say, let's open CSV file, and there's no new line for it. And then we say, let's read the, well, that is the alias that we have for the file. For every single row that we have in that, just read it and look at this part. For the year, we just say, let's have the open parentheses concatenated with a string year, and then close it with close parentheses. And it's going to show you the result like this. Huh? Simple. There's another thing. All of the files that we have worked on this till this moment, they were text files. A simple definition of the difference between text files and binary files is if you right click and say open it with text editors like Notepad for me, if they are text files, if they are CSV files, you can simply see that the files can be opened by a text and you can understand fully what is happening. Imagine that I have this file here and I right click, and this time instead of Excel, I'm going to say, please open it for me using Notepad. Look at the things. As simple as that, you can understand everything that you see here. But what if you want to save it in a kind of semi-encrypted way? Guys, the things that we have like pictures, they are encrypted in a way. We have different layers, and if you just open a picture, you can never see anything meaningful by opening it in a Notepad. Simply, if you open a file and you cannot understand the contents in text environments like Notepad, they are binary files. Again, Binary files are the files that you can open them in a text editors like Notepad, WordPad, Microsoft Word, anything, and you cannot understand the content of it. Okay? What are the usages? First, it's a kind of encryption. Not any stranger can open it and just see what is happening there. That's the first level of encryption. The other thing, you use the space efficiently. Imagine that for a raw data, it takes millions of bytes to save raw data. But if you use RGB and you use bitmap image format or the other JPEG and standards that we have, you compress the size of the file. Apart from it, you add some additives like the way that you can control if the data was changed when you transfer it through the network or something. Long story short, for all those reasons, like security, efficient way of using the storage, we use binary files. One of the most common, actually, this was common 10 years ago. Now we have better versions, but let's just stick to the current thing. Let's define movies again, and then say import pickle. And then you say open movies.bin. This is one of the binary formats for pickles. We say write binary. This file, we define an alias for it. And then we say dump the movies, the things that we have here, into that file. And now look at the result. It takes a few seconds. And now you have a file, movies.bin. And I'm going to save that because I had already something. Yeah. And I'm going to open it for you. And look at the result. Do you see all those things? Right? So this is one of the samples that we can understand that this file is not a text file. It has some characters that we cannot understand directly. So this is a pickle to dump your data into a file. But what if you want to read your binary file? Simple. The way that you dealt with a text file, you could say with open movies.bin, read the file in binary format. And then you just say, instead of dump, you say load this time. You load the file and look at the result. It's ready to use, right? Let me just see your... So the question, just first and zero, or are they completely random characters? My apologies, I missed the question. Well, this row, look at this one. For every single row that we had just two elements. For every single row, we had the first element, which was the name of a movie, and the second one was the year. So that is why we used 0 and 1. It was like column 0 and column 1. Did I answer your question, Alex? So for the binary files, I'm not talking about this specific one. Just leave it the way that they coded for computer. What we really care is how to save it and how to fetch the information. What we actually have inside the binary file, that's not useful. You know what I'm saying? So for us, what really matters is how you convert it to something that computer can understand, and how to fetch it from the binary file, and we can understand it like what we see in here. Does it make sense? Abdul Ghaffar, thank you for sharing that. Yes, absolutely right. Okay, before we get any further, I want you to just read something. I'm gonna explain something to you all, and that is a concept that, because it needs hands-on, I asked your lab professor, Mr. Maziar, to provide something for your lab. But I just quickly go through the concept for you. And this is something that is useful when you get to industry. And if you go to the last PowerPoint that I've already provided for you in week number 6 folder that I showed you at the beginning of the session, and that is week number 6, the purpose of using unit test. What is unit test? Please pay attention to this one. Imagine that you want to write a program that calculates the tax for people based on different inventories that they have in the society. Imagine that people who make more than 6-figure, they have different sort of taxations, and those who are between 60 to 100, different. And imagine that people below 35, they don't need to pay any tax, kind of thing, right? And you want to test your module before bringing it to the actual program. You are going to define a test for every single category, and you make sure that if it works properly or not. Look at this one. There are some formulas that you have to consider. Imagine that we have add, subtract, multiply, divide. These are very simple samples. Then look at the things that we have here. We are going to say, hey, let's use test add. Guys, the previous one was add. Always the unit test start with test underscore and the name of the thing that you want to calculate. You say that if we go to calc.add, that's the name of the library or the file that contains all those functions. You say that if I add 10 and 5, I pass those two, the result would be 15. Does that make sense? Just guys, very high level. I'm gonna just ask you to understand, just to understand the very high level view of it. I don't want to practice it at the moment. Imagine that you have something like add, and you want to see if it works properly. Then you need to define a unit test. The unit test always starts with test underscore and the name of a method. And then you pass parameters and you say what you expect to receive. You say that the cert equal, the result should be 15. If it is 15, you see that here we have a dot, means that the test successfully passed. And if you receive something like F here, it shows that we have failure. The thing is, it strongly recommend that you take care of the unit test yourself first, because that was not that much proper to expect the users to find, because if there are some errors in your code, if you don't find it, user would. And the problem is you're going to lose your reputation, you and your organization. So before doing anything, when you define a function, immediately a method, immediately define a test unit for it to make sure that if it works fine or not. And most of the time, we check our test unit using the borders. Means that imagine that we have positive, negative. We always use one positive number to test, one negative number to test, and one border like 0. We have some different examples to make sure that if the unit test works properly or not. The file that I shared with you, I already provided some videos. I want you, because we did not have time to spend for that in the class, I share all those links here for you. You have all of them except the first one in your already in your code. Sorry, in your I wanted to say Blackboard Bright to D2L, Desire to Learn, or Bright Space Environment. And apart from it, give me a second, please. I'm going to send you this part into your Telegram group as well. And I'm going to upload a latest version of the file, which I already shared with you as a unit test. Please watch at least one of the videos. The best practice would be watching all the videos if you have time before going to the lab. Again, I asked Maziar, and he's kind enough to share some practices. I don't know why it doesn't show. Okay, hopefully you can get that. And I'm gonna replace the current one in the, because I just modified it last night, almost 3 a.m. So this is the latest version I have already uploaded. By saying that, we covered everything that we needed to cover for today, today's session. And please, before you leave, can you please go to the assessment quizzes and confirm that you can see quiz number 5. Okay. The last thing, next week, after having a makeup session, we are going to have another quiz number 6. The reason for that is we have limited number of sessions, and I want to pick 8 out of 11. So that's for your benefit to have another quiz next week. Exceptionally, as a kind of exception, we are going to have a due date till Sunday, 11:59 p.m. Yes, thank you very much, Alexis. So the thing is, for next week, after finishing the session, you can access quiz number 6, and that is just for our benefit. You have even one day more, so it's going to be Sunday evening to answer the quiz. Okay? Yes, I know, and that is why, Murad, there is a chance that we do not have enough number of sessions to cover. That's why I want to have one more in the next week. Okay. Is there any question, any concern? If there is not, let me just close the session. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the professional people that they were in the session, and my sincere apologies if I changed my tune just because of faults of 1 or 2 people. Hopefully, I'm going to learn as well not to change because of just one. Thank you. Have a wonderful one, and see you next week. Take care. Bye. Ciao.